What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of See It Through My Eyes. I'm Richie here with my two co-hosts. We have one on assignment, but she'll be back with us for the next month. Today, I got my cameraman slash editor slash stand the man.
Hi.
We got the black man himself, black man.
What's up?
And today, we're going to be reacting to a video from the channel Kate and Michelle. Go check that out. We will be running around kind of just reacting to parts of the video. So if you want to check out go and check out the original video, the entire video, and the channel itself. I've been subscribed to the channel for quite a while.
Same.
Yeah, I really like her content. So today's video will be men and women are different. LOL.
And if you guys like this video, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Once again, guys, we are very close to 100 subscribers, so it will really do us a favor if you guys just kind of get us over there. We really do appreciate it. All of our first-time people from back in the beginning, we want to thank you guys very much for supporting us through this. And then our new people, we do hope that you like what we have. And also, we encourage you guys to check out other stuff that we have on the channel. There's a whole lot of stuff out there for you, so go for it. Go nuts. Have fun.
Support us and help us. We're trying to reach that milestone of 1K subscribers. So we're almost 1/10 there, baby. So
Is 100?
yes, it's 1/10 there. I don't need a calculator.
I do.
So with that being said, let's get right into the video.
Some people argue that there are no differences between men and women, but if you look at psychology, well, the evidence would beg to differ. For example, research shows that women are 60% more likely to seek out support systems, while men often feel pressured to suppress their emotions entirely. And the data would back this up. Men are 50% less likely to seek out help for emotional issues. And if we move this into the domain of relationships, I bet you didn't know that 70% of relationship conflicts are never resolved. And this only widens the gap between men and women, creating a wedge of emotional distance. And if this wedge gets left unchecked, it can lead to long-term problems and complete resentment between two people. And this will leave you under the same roof, barely knowing one another. A huge reason for these statistics is simple. Men and women communicate and think differently. And if we don't accept and start to understand this, it can lead to conflict that will inevitably end the relationship. So if having a relationship that sustains the test of time interests you and avoiding the climbing divorce rate is something that you're interested in, then stick around, because in this video, I'm going to address the 21 major psychological differences between men and women and how they inevitably impact relationships.
Okay, so before she gets into the 21, just with the intro alone, do you guys have any thoughts about that? Do you guys agree or disagree so far?
I don't disagree.
You do think that men and women are very different? LOL.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's kind of common knowledge. Men and women are different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I too second his second. So let's continue.
Let's get started. And this brings me to my first point, the emotional expression between men and women. If you've ever been in a relationship with a man, then you might feel like getting him to express himself is similar to that of pulling teeth. But here's the thing. It's not because men are trying to be difficult. There are deeper reasons why men hesitate to express their emotions openly. And as somebody who's worked with many men, time and time and time again, they will tell me that showing their emotions or vulnerabilities only leaves them to be weaponized against them. And this will show up in my comment sections as well. And if you really sit and think about it, men tend to lead with three main presentations of emotion. They're either happy, they're horny, or they're angry. But that doesn't mean they don't feel sadness, fear, or insecurity, or the plethora of other emotions that women do. Society, family systems, and culture have conditioned men to focus on power over emotions. And if you think about this from a historical lens, men were protectors and providers. Back then, survival depended on strength, quick decision-making, and staying calm under pressure. In that context, showing emotions like fear or sadness could be seen as a weakness, which might lower a man's status within the group, or worse, get everybody killed. Now let's fast forward to today, and you can see that these evolutionary drivers still impact how men show up and behave in the world. Men are continued to be reinforced with the idea that showing their emotions makes them weak, which continues to incentivize them to compartmentalize and feel like their emotions are their problem to deal with. And this is especially true in the workforce, where staying composed is key to maintaining a level of authority. But in personal relationships, this stoicism can create barriers, leading to misunderstandings and emotional distance. Now, if we look at women, on the other hand, they've evolved to express their emotions very openly, and this was essential for creating strong bonds and maintaining community. And if we look at the implications that drove this type of behavior, creating social networks and making sure that there was support for their children being raised was important not only for their own survival, but their children's. And if you've ever dealt with a child or you have a child of your own, you're well aware that it takes a village. But there is a trade-off with this level of emotional openness, especially when women are expected to manage not only their emotions, but the emotions of the people around them. So when couples can recognize these differences, you can intentionally work together to start to bridge the gap, encouraging men to express their feelings more openly and helping women share the emotional load more equitably. Which brings me to point 2, how we seek support. Men tend to walk this path of self-reliance. And while that trait can be incredibly inspiring and attractive, it can also lead to a mountain of loneliness and shame. When women connect with other women, they tend to open up about their inner world, talking through personal struggles and finding a space for validation. But men don't really have the same outlets that we do. They tend to compartmentalize and continue to believe that their emotions are their own problem. Even in groups, unless the motivation behind the group is to create a container in which men can openly express and communicate their emotions and what's going on in their lives, they usually keep the conversation something oriented towards work and sports. And this helps them to avoid the deeper layers of their emotional state and the texture of their own mind. And if we look at this throughout history, men have been conditioned to focus on providing, protecting, and putting the service before the self. And this has reinforced their ability to face and handle challenges completely on their own. And today, these pressures still dictate how men tend to behave. There's a huge reluctance when it comes to men seeking out any semblance of help. And as I mentioned earlier, they continue to state that their emotions are weaponized against them, or it makes them feel vulnerable or weak. But this can have serious consequences for men's emotional and psychological well-being. Without access to support systems, men will continue to struggle to process their emotions, and this can lead to prolonged distress and severe mental health problems. And this behavior also impacts relationships, as partners may feel completely shut out and unable to provide any ounce of support. The societal expectation for men to manage their own shit themselves creates a cycle of isolation, where the help that could inevitably lead to growth and healing is completely avoided. So understanding this dynamic is crucial for breaking the stigma around men's mental health and allowing them to seek help and encourage them to get support when they need it. Which brings me to point 3. How do we approach risk? Picture this. You're at a party, and a group of guys are around a table with a knife, and they want to play this game where they take the knife and they shank between their own fingers. Chances are the men in this group are way more likely to take up this challenge, whereas the women are way more cautious and wondering, what the fuck is wrong with you? But this isn't just about thrill-seeking. It goes a little bit deeper. Men often engage in risky behavior to showcase strength, bravery, and dominance, traits that historically help them secure mates and climb the social hierarchy. But this can lead to other issues, like injury or reckless decision-making. Women, in contrast, have evolved to prioritize safety, and this is crucial for protecting not only themselves, but any potential offspring. And this means women are way more likely to be a little bit more calculated when it comes to taking any sort of risk. And if we fast forward to today, we can see, obviously, this pattern still exists. Men are way more likely to engage in high-risk activities, whether it's financial investments, extreme sports, or even career choices. The willingness to take risk towards these opportunities can have positive outcomes, such as financial success or career achievements, but it can also result in financial loss and long-term consequences. On the other hand, women's risk aversion is evident in their financial decisions, career choices, and personal safety. Women tend to prioritize stability and long-term success, and security over short-term gains. And the drive for risk-taking has long-term implications for relationship dynamics overall. For men, it can lead to achievement, but also impulsive decision-making and negative consequences, while women's strategic caution can lead to missed opportunities. So having an understanding of the proclivity for each to engage in these decisions towards risk-taking a little bit differently can create a dynamic where both partners can contribute to well-rounded decision-making.
Okay, so for the first 3 points, any comments?
I think it's important to, like, because she says that it's cut and dry, right? Like, men have trouble expressing themselves, women can always express themselves. When I think it comes down to a personal thing, because I've met both, like, where it's like I've met women who have trouble expressing themselves, and I've met men who, like, don't mind expressing themselves at all. So it's like, I think it's just important to acknowledge the fact that it's not all cut and dry. You know, it's not all straightforward, because there's going to be, like, outliers.
So us being men, the 3 of us, let's kind of play that, like, in between the three of us, which one would you guys identify as more as the one that doesn't, you're not able to kind of demonstrate emotions, you just don't feel comfortable, or you don't want to, or you are comfortable enough to demonstrate emotion around both men and women?
I'm comfortable enough,
Mm-hmm.
even though personally I faced backlash from both genders for expressing myself.
Mm-hmm. Like that you're too much, or that you're not enough?
That I'm too much.
Too emotional?
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's,
I don't see that.
I gotta be honest. That's a new one.
And I know I don't look at like with you guys, because it's like
he's a rocking machine.
I'm silent, you know, but just in my past with other people, it's been like I either express myself too much, or sometimes I don't express myself at all. But I figured out that as long as you can express yourself when asked, most people won't mind it, especially decent people, because there are people out there who are assholes about it too.
Yuya?
I'll say I'm very expressive with my emotions. And funny enough, like, see, I don't really receive backlash, at least on that. I haven't gotten that. But I will say this, I am very conscientious about who knows what I let out to who. Like, I'm very, very meticulous and calculated about like who I express my emotions to. And I'll be honest, I think for me that will be a little bit crippling, because sometimes, I can sometimes be wrong. I can sometimes put so much out there to someone who probably can't handle all that weight. And then the flip side is, like, sometimes there's other people who want to get to that level, and I will just like I just don't have that trust for them, and that, and sometimes they would try to like shake the answers out of me. They would like try to like, why don't you open up? And that would honestly push me a little bit more, like, see, because it seems like you kind of are just forcing your way in. Now I don't want to do it. That's kind of been my little tale, but I don't really have an issue with expressing emotions. I just need to know that environment I'm doing it in is the space to do it in.
Now, when we're talking about expressing emotions for the both of you, is it a specific set of emotions that we're able to be public with them, or is it like you just feel like you're able to be vulnerable with any type of like, very vulnerable emotions, basically?
No. I faced the most backlash when I've either cried or been angry. From both like sides. Like, it did not matter.
Where was
really?
I?
Where was
that?
Where was I?
It's because when you know how Mexican families are. Like when, quiere llorar, and it's just like they're teasing you and stuff.
Is
like
this
that.
when you were younger? Like when you were a kid?
When I was younger, and I would like have injuries and stuff like that. And I would want to cry because it's like, I'm in pain, and I'm a kid, and it's like, oh, he wants to cry, what, and it's like, now that I find it, it's like, I don't cry that much, but
not on the outside.
Yeah.
So what about affection? Are you able to be affectionate with other people?
With my friends, yes. With my siblings, yes. With, say, parents, no. Not really. I think it's just like, to me, because I didn't receive like affection like that from my mom, it's really difficult for me to do so. Where it's like, oh, replace my mom with my sister. I got you. It's like, like, oh, I love you and stuff like that, Or like, I want to give you a hug. But it's weird because for her, it's the same thing where it's like, she gets weirded out by that. Because like, from her perspective, she didn't have that either.
Yeah.
And so it's like, to me, she tells me, she's like, I don't really need the hugs or the I love yous.
It's just given.
Yeah, like, as long as you give me like a high five, dap me up, once in a while.
A handshake.
It's all good. And I think it just depends on how like the person receives love. It's like, how about you guys?
You?
I remember I discussed it with you before, specifically with my mom, because it's a little bit interesting. You mentioned like opening up, and then like not necessarily affection with what I'm about to say, but it's just like me and my mom, we we're a little bit different than I guess her and my older brother, because as a youngest, my mom always kind of had me attached to the hip, and so there, as I was starting to grow up, we would clash when I'm trying to kind of do my own thing, and she's like, no, 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 and she let my older brother kind of move about and do his own thing and all of that. And I'm bringing this up because when it comes to expressing myself and like even trying to talk, I told you this before, that sometimes it's a little tricky because I know that we're still like working on that adult relationship where I'm an adult, obviously she's an adult, and we're trying to have that whole, well, we can talk as if we're, um, I don't know, like adult conversation. But sometimes, like with my mom, it's a little bit tricky because it's sometimes like I'm in a business interview with like a manager, a CEO, or something like that, because the plate environments that she's been ingrained in for like years was those settings, and so some of that bled into how she kind of grew both me and my older brother up. And so there will be points when I'm trying to express myself or even just want to kind of open up, I kind of can't, because it comes off more like that she's up here and I'm just this employee kind of thing. And it's been moments where I've told you like directly, I'm just like, I don't want to talk to a manager. I don't want to talk to that. I just want to talk to my mom. And it can get a little tricky. Whereas like the stuff that I can talk to my brother or you two, especially you two, like I can just do that easily. My mom can sometimes ask for the same thing, and it's so difficult. So it can be tricky for me to open up. Like I said, I can do that, but it's about the environment. It's about the environment and then who I deem is worthy enough to get that.
Mm. For me, I would say, for me, it depends on the people, and just how I kind of perceive people. I'm able to be affectionate physically with guys who are comfortable with that type of emotion. Um, I'm just being honest with you two. I see that you guys aren't too comfortable with that. So that's why I'm not, affectionate like that with you guys. But with other friends that are male, I do tend to, be a little bit more affectionate. And not, not a, kiss on the mouth and a smack on the ass type of.
Is it like play fighting?
Yeah, well, play fighting, but also just a bro hug. You get me? Um, with my sisters, I'm able to be affectionate with my nephew, kids, all that, cousins, female friends, girlfriends, all that. I'm able to be affectionate with all that. When it comes to my parents, it's hard for me just because same thing like you guys mentioned, that was never a norm growing up. So even when I try to like hug my mom, she kind of just like with her arms just straight out to the side because my grandma wasn't affectionate like that. And my dad, he tries to be affectionate. Unfortunately, it's more of like thinking that I'm still like 5 years old, and it kind of makes me feel uncomfortable with that. When it comes to like crying and all that, just if I'm comfortable, like I've done that in front of you too. When I'm going through something, I've done it in front of people that I trust. Um, I've always had issues opening up, like when it comes to actually making friendships, in public. Like I get talk just because professionally that's what I've been trained to give like public speeches and talk in groups. However, when it comes to actually like forming friendships or like I don't know, co-worker relationships or whatever, that's where I kind of miss. It's hard for me to do like small talk. It's just hard for me to really open up and be myself just because I'm like just in my head I'm like, oh, what should I say,
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to show emotions like that. I'm a very sensitive person, I'm a very emotional person, so I'm more in my head of like how much am I able to show in front of certain people than really having that problem. But I've noticed it in my relationships, romantically, where sometimes it's hard for me to be affectionate or to get affection, or to speak up or to let let my girlfriend see me in my low points just because of that, that stigma of like I can't be seen when I'm in my low points or I'm weak or anything like that. And it's something that at 31 I'm learning how to kind of like work around it, because we've talked about this before. Society tries to teach us that it's bad to be emotional, but then at the same time, it's bad to not be emotional as men. And I think there's a healthy balance that we need to learn. Unfortunately, you have two radical sides on both female and men who will criticize and tell you that you're not man if you show this or you show that. But like I said, I think there is a healthy balance somewhere in between that all of us should kind of strive to get to.
Yeah.
Can I ask all this? Are there ever moments where you guys feel like you can't express yourself, or you just don't know what to say?
Yep.
Yeah. And in those moments, do you guys feel comfortable being like, "Hey, I don't know what to say in this moment"?
I could do that with people I know. With like strangers, it's kind of like when you're a little kid and you're shy and you're like, I want them to like me. I'm used to people not liking me, and I could deal with that. I used to have a list of like 100 and something people that didn't like me, and I used to be proud of that.
Wait, seriously?
I'll talk about that in a whole different video. Tune into our Patreon if you want to find that.
Oh God.
But when it comes to actually wanting people to like me, that is where I struggle. So if I, have a brain fart in the conversation that we're having, I'm just like, and they're probably like, oh, great, Blind Ann has a, mental disorder too. And I do, but that's not the reason why, I struggle.
I'll say, like, when I'm in, like, one of my other family social gatherings or something like that, and a lot of them, they would put an emphasis on my older brother. They'd ask, what's he doing with this and that, and I would just be off, like, just kind of there, and then not really, they don't really inquire, so I don't say anything. And then when they do get to me, either A, is similar to like what you said, Ricky, with the whole, they kind of approach as if I'm like some child, where it's just the general basis, are you in school, like this and that, and I'm like, I'm an adult. I mean, I can give you an answer. Or even the one time, like, I remember I told, I guess my mom was trying to include me in some conversation, and she noticed like a Facebook post I put up of how me and a friend of mine, we completed a video game that we've been at the series for like a while, and she brought me in. I wasn't really ready for that to happen, and I was about to go in just like, oh yeah, me and this guy, we've been playing this for years, but then they instantly shut it down. They shut down just like me trying to do the, like, oh yeah, I don't like stuff like that. It's like they totally trampled over what it was that they was trying to talk to me about. And I was just like, fine, I won't say anything. I won't say anything. And like to this day, like even like on my social media, I don't have that much activity on there, because it's just things to do. But on top of that, I have family out there, and it's been times I would try to say something and then immediately write in the comments, if not a text message or a phone call, hey, what's going on? Hey, I saw this and that. And it's just like, I want to express myself, but then if you're just going to kind of shut that down, no thanks. I'd rather just not.
So going back to the video. So like I mentioned earlier, we're not going to be reacting to the entire video. So I am going to skip a couple. But like I said, go check out the original video to get all 21 points that she's going to make. But with that being said, let's get back into the video.
Which brings me to point 8, and this might be a little bit unpopular, but there are differences between how men and women experience sexual desire. And if we're going to be honest with each other for a moment, sexual desire does not always align perfectly between partners. Men often have a higher baseline when it comes to having sex or intimacy, while women's desire is much more influenced by the emotional connectedness of the relationship. And this discrepancy can cause tension between the two, but understanding why it exists can help couples navigate their sexual intimacy much more easily. Men have, from a biological and evolutionary perspective, are hardwired to focus on reproducing, and so they tend to take up the opportunities that come into their space. And this also means that they have a much more consistent and intense sexual appetite. Women, however, often experience desire that is much more context dependent, influenced by emotional intimacy and life circumstances. And this is because they needed a supportive partner who was also resourceful in order to feel confident with the consequences of being physically intimate with somebody. And these drivers still play a role today. Men can feel frustrated when their sexual needs aren't met. And if we're talking about infidelity, this tends to be the thing that pushes a guy over the edge. However, women tend to pull back on being physically intimate with their partner because their emotional needs aren't being met. And this can create the tension that exists between two people under the same roof. And this understanding will allow you to open the floor and communicate a little bit more directly about what's actually going on here. Men can learn to appreciate the importance of emotional intimacy, while women can work to understand their partner's sexual drive without judgment. And this ultimately can lead to a much more fulfilling and balanced sexual relationship. Which brings me to point 9. How we experience empathy is actually a little bit different. Have you ever felt like your partner just doesn't get it when you're upset? While you might expect empathy and understanding when you're upset, he might just dive in and offer a solution or tell you that you're being crazy. But again, this isn't because he simply doesn't care, though some dudes can just be an asshole. Men actually do struggle with connecting to empathy, especially when they feel like a problem needs to be solved. Whereas women are significantly more attuned to empathy, as they need this to maintain social bonds and cultivate deeper connection. And I want to iterate here that it's not because men don't feel empathy. They absolutely do. But their priority list is always around solving the problem versus talking about the problem or validating the emotional experience that somebody else might be going through. And understanding these differences can help remove the assumptions around why your partner may or may not be doing what they're doing. For example, if a man can understand that oftentimes when a woman is emotional, she just wants to be heard and validated. And if a woman can understand that oftentimes when she's upset, he's trying to alleviate the pain that she's experiencing, you can see that the intentions behind both of these behaviors are actually positive. And this can ultimately lead to better understanding of one another and a deeper connection between you two.
So going off reacting to points 8 and 9, the first one being about sexual desires, differences between men and women. You two go first, and then I kind of want to compare our perspectives.
About sex?
Yes!
Jesus, you want to play rock, paper, scissors for it?
Let's
do eeny, meeny, miny, you.
Oh my god. Okay, like, I could see why she said what she said about the sexual part, specifically with the men, of us holding it closer than emotional intimacy, because I guess using what she said in context, right? Men only view that as the only way to have emotional intimacy through the sex. And I think that what she said about both parties, one, the man being learning how to like expand his level of intimacy, because there's no such thing as a fixed love language.
That's right.
Let's get that through. You can learn more. And then the woman also understanding why he is the way he is. I think it's a decent compromise because it forces both of them to explore facets of themselves that they otherwise wouldn't do.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I've heard it before where there will be times where a woman where, you know, the guy would be like, hey, let's do stuff, and she's just like not in the mood, or like, you know, or use the excuse of like, I'm tired and stuff like that. And then when it would get to the root of it, it will be on the lines of like, you know, because this isn't there and that's not there. It'll be more on the lines of just stuff not accomplished. Like, it's just so many things wrapped around that she's tethered herself to, that will inhibit her from honestly experiencing the pleasure and release that comes from sexual intercourse. And I do believe it, that there is that men and women are different like that, where for us it's, you know, kind of fixed on just get that release, you know, do what we got to do, and then keep it pushing, you know. And not that I agree with that, but I'm about to acknowledge that that is a common man concept. And then on the female's end of it, it is a bit more attached to emotion, because in truth, like there's sometimes those like females who get involved with someone maybe it was, you know, they could have had that arranged as just like a one night stand, casual, da, 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 da. But then afterward, depending on, you know, certain things, an attachment does happen. An attachment happens to the point where it's like, but I thought, you know, this was supposed to only be just this. It wasn't supposed to go any further. And then it mutated into something else. And if you know, and I do caution sometimes that we need to address the differences between how, as men and women, we view sex, because you know we might just be going in and like, you know, I'm about to get mine and she'll get hers and we'll be done with it, but there might be more attached to it, where it's like this space, she might read it as your safety, she trusts you, you know, she might be reading way more into it and giving you her body is the testament that you can handle all of that, when in truth, you as a man, you may or may not. And that can be dangerous, because then afterwards you're like, I just thought this was only just this and that, and then she got attached in more ways than you can handle, and that is a little dangerous.
So for me, I think it happens on both sides. That's what I've seen. I think it's with women, they tend to be with their emotions, they're more subconscious. Conscious when it comes to like what emotions they're taking away or how they're interpreting, you know, the act of intimacy with somebody. Whereas with men, we're more subconscious with ours, so we think that it's more physical, but in reality, we're still taking something away that is an emotion, whether it's being validated or feeling like we're making a true connection with somebody.
Right.
And it's easier for us to disconnect and just kind of go to the next one. And I feel it all goes back to the way that we're raised and what we're taught.
Mm-hmm.
If we're taught that men are not supposed to show emotion, then obviously when it comes to something as intimate as sex, we are going to just focus more on the physical aspect of it and the subconscious part of it in order to kind of get that emotional part of it out. Whereas with women, if they're raised or taught that it's okay, and you know, women communicate more with emotion, so it is going to be easier for them to be able to take away something. You know, I'm giving you this, like what you just said. I'm giving you all this physically, but I'm also giving you all this consciously, emotionally. And we a lot of the time don't take it, or what a lot of guys do, we tend to misinterpret it, and we take it as, see, I own this person, or she's whooped on me, or you know, this or that. And a lot of the time, you know, it's always going to be a case by case situation. So every situation is going to be completely different. Because for me, now I want you all to sit down, and I know you're not going to believe it, but I've been somewhat of a hoe in my entire life.
Yes.
I'm reformed now, but in my whole days, somebody get Jesus a bottle of water, because he's about a fan. I know he couldn't believe what I just said.
Oh my God.
But for me, what I would see, a lot of partners that I had, well, first of all my partners were females. Let's start with that. But
yeah, that's very good.
But most of the partners that I would have would be more on the emotional side, because I was also more attracted to those. Now, the ones who weren't looking for relationships, but there was a physical attraction, obviously I saw that with them, they were okay doing the quote unquote guy thing. You know, one night stand, hit it and quit it, friends with benefits, whatever you wanted to call it. And there was no real emotional attachment. Now, being transparent, especially in my younger years, once or twice I did get whooped. And I got attached. If I was looking for something else with the person and there wasn't that like emotional agreement, but there was also not that emotional connection on both sides, and sometimes it was the other way around, right? Initially what had started as just an agreement of, you know, it's just going to be physical, nothing, you know, no strings attached. Eventually something would be, you know, get attached on either side, and things would not end up well. I feel like, as for the point about there's times in relationships where women, for various reasons, might not be in the mood. I've seen all of them. Like, I've seen women who physically, like they're just exhausted, you know, like
Yep.
maybe we just had a long day at work, maybe, you know, we're physically not feeling good some of the months, or we're just, you know, I don't know, like emotionally not feeling okay. It got nothing to do with us.
Yep.
And they just want to, you know, cuddle or lay down or chill, depending on the personality of the woman. You know, I've seen that. But I've also been on the other side where sometimes we were a bit, you know, passive with our communication, but because they felt that it was their responsibility, you know, okay, then let's just get it over with. You know, you would do it, and I would feel that distance. A lot of the time, it would be at the end of my relationship. Like that was kind of a sign that we were heading to the end. But I would also see that, and you could just feel it. Like you could feel it, you know, physically, you know, moving and everything. But there's just that spark that you feel with somebody that you do connect with, like it wouldn't be there. And then on the flip side too, there were moments where yes, us men, we can also feel that, where either we're not in the mood or maybe we just emotionally don't feel that connection with that person. So yes, we can also fake, you know, not just orgasms, but fake that spark. um some women will immediately notice. Some women might not, because there are women who also think that we are just in it for, you know,
The
just,
sex.
yeah, just for the physical aspect of it. But not all men are the same, just like how not all women are the same when it comes to sex. So,
You know, oh, one more thing, just on top of that, I will say, like, because he brung up a lot, in those instances, you're definitely gonna have to communicate that thing out, because sometimes partners do be on that assumption, it's me, it's me, it's me, and it's like, you know what? If it is, it needs to be addressed. If it's not, it needs to be addressed. But it does. At the point is, it needs to be addressed, because you know, sex is important. Sex is important, and you're only going to get what both of you need if both of you guys are present. So if it does need to have that, just sit down where I'm not feeling it, and then like there's things about that's around that. At the very least, you got to open that conversation up. Otherwise, you're just going to keep faking it to make it, and it ain't going to work.
and my advice to couples that, you know, whether it's both of yous or one of yous, like if you guys start feeling that distance, because you know, in every relationship, that spark will come and go. Like it'll, you
That's
know,
fair.
it won't always be a volcano. Now you obviously don't want it just to go completely cold, but sometimes there'll be room temperature. That little flame will be room temperature, and that's not always a bad thing. Because again, we also got to take into consideration, as men especially, we got to take considerations. These people call women, they have a whole world outside of us, just like we do.
Yep.
You know, so
Yep.
there's going to be outside factors that we have no control over, and sticking it in and, you know, doing this and doing that might not be the way to. It's not like you're fixing a air conditioner or a fan or you know, I don't know, it's summertime, so that's all I can think of right now.
Is it not in here?
A little bit, but anyways, I think, like, for me, what I've learned in my 31 years, I haven't been all 31 years, but anyways. But one thing that I have learned, for both sides, for both men and women, if you do start seeing that spark kind of, you know, what's the word, like,
Die down.
yeah, like
Yeah.
dying down, if maybe it is that you guys have to, like, the one thing you don't want to do is a routine. Like, you gotta every day make love. I'm sorry, make love every day, right? And every night, like 20 times a day, because you're gonna get tired, man. You're gonna get tired, or you just won't have that energy every day, and then you'll start feeling like it's like a job,
A job.
or a responsibility. You don't want that either. So you do want to make it spontaneous, make it routinely spontaneous. So, you know, like, hey, she's looking good, you know, and you give her the look, she gives you the look, you know, consensual. And, you know, you get her up the stairs, or, you know, she's over there doing something in the laundry room. Y'all got time, nobody's at home, get it on, you know, but make sure that there's that, like, you know, especially for like you people that can see, not like us. You guys got your body languages. Use it, goddammit. Use your learn how to read on both sides. Like women to learn men, you know, body languages, and vice versa. Because we can't just take it as, oh well, look, she's, smiling at me. That must mean she wants it. There I go. And then she's like, no, I was just smiling at you. I wanted to tell, or a lot of the time, right? They hug us and we're like, oh, she wants it, turn her over, put her into position. And it's like, they just want that physical contact, but not the sexual aspect of it. They just want to be whole, and those moments, I know for us guys, it's like, ugh, but those moments are very special. And if you don't want that, then I don't know, don't be in a relationship with somebody. So if it's just changing the routine, then do that, right? Like let's do that first. If you're seeing, in my amateur and immature opinion, if you see that it hasn't changed, then start talking. I mean, communicate regardless, right? But then start talking like, hey, what's going on? Like, is there something missing? Because if we start assuming on either side that either I'm the problem or she's the problem or somebody else or he's the problem or worse, there's somebody else involved.
Oh no.
Then not only is the intimacy part of it dying down and the emotional connection dying down, then you got trust. Then you're just bringing on more bullshit. So, moving on to number 9, empathy. What do you guys think?
So a while ago, I heard a TikTok of someone saying that, oh, what's wrong with people? Why don't they have empathy? Like, why are people like less empathetic these days? And someone stitched it saying that it's not that people don't have empathy. Some people have a certain capacity of empathy that they can give to people, but then a lot of people don't have the ability to use their imagination to make sure that they have even more empathy for somebody.
But do you think there's a difference between empathy between men and women, like the way that we feel or demonstrate it?
I think there is definitely a difference in how people demonstrate their empathy because you obviously have you obviously have different ways of like showing someone that you care, where someone might do like acts of service, right? Or someone else might have like a very good conversation with them or just listen to them. Those are just different ways to show empathy.
So kind of bringing it back though to like in a relationship, like between a man and a woman, that's kind of what the video is about. That any other, I don't know, men and women and women, whatever, you can leave that in the conversation.
Do I think that it's a gender-based thing?
Do you think there's a difference between the way like a girlfriend or a wife and a boyfriend or a husband show that empathy towards each other?
I mean, I think at the start there is, but like in all healthy relationships, I think both of you work together to understand each other's empathy over time, to like make sure that, like, let's say the type of empathy I showed you, right, isn't the type of empathy that you're used to, but because I've shown you it so much, you start to use it yourself, right, or vice versa. So I don't think it's a gender thing. I think we have the ability to learn more ways of showing empathy. We just have to use our imagination.
Now let's get the tea on Jesus. In your past relationships, Jesus, do you feel you have either lacked empathy or not understood female empathy?
Sometimes I feel like I have. And it's like, in those moments, it's like, what can I do? No. Versus like, do I do anything? Right? And I think for me, it was just learning to use my imagination more so it can better service the empathy that this person needs. Like, let's say this person tells me what they've been through, right? I try to imagine myself in similar situations to try and understand what this person might be feeling. And 9 times out of 10, I'll end up hitting an exact feeling as to how they're feeling. Or I'll just say, oh, like this would have made me like feel scared and stuff like that. And everyone connects through like fear.
That's right.
Again, like, I don't think it's a gendered thing. Obviously we both have different ways to show empathy and that we care. It just depends on like how we choose to learn how to do so. So I don't know about you guys.
Ian, anything?
Not really. It seems straightforward to me.
For me, I would say yes. I think I would say there's always going to be differences. But one thing that I have noticed both in relationships and also just working in different agencies, when it comes to empathy, we do tend to show it differently. Not that we men don't know how to show empathy, but to us, it's like checking up, hey, you doing good, and just showing up. Whereas with women, I especially in relationships, I've noticed that it's like that's one thing that I've learned in my especially in my recent relationships, where it's like I don't need you to solve the problem. I just need you to listen to me. Um and I can relate to that because that's kind of how I am too when I, go to one of you guys. I don't need you guys to give me a solution to my problems. I just need a vent, and bitch and moan and cry.
Right.
But that's also something that I've learned communicating with each other, because if we think differently, if we and again, I do agree that it's every individual is going to be different. Every individual is going to want empathy differently, right? um because a lot of the time what I've seen, I would jump in like, okay, she's going through something, so my immediate thing, because I want to make sure she's okay, don't let her cry, don't let her freak out. And I'm doing it with the good intentions and a good, mindset, but it's coming off to her as I'm dismissing it or I'm downplaying what she's going through. And a lot of the time, what we think, let's just be honest, we're like, women are dramatic. They're just, calling for attention, or they're over dramatizing, over exaggerating, and making things worse. And the easiest solution, just do this, and do that. But it's also because we don't overanalyze how a lot of women tend to do. Not every woman, before you guys come with your torches, but a lot of women do tend to like, they want to like overturn every fucking stone and really analyze every possibility, everything. Whereas with us, it's like, we need to do this, this, and this, and this. Let's go. Stop talking. Let's move. And that's one thing that I've learned both at, with my background in social work, but also dating, friendships, observing, looking at YouTube also, is that there is a bit of a difference when it comes to that empathy.
The way in which we silence ourselves. Have you ever bitten your tongue in a disagreement while your partner might have done the same to avoid appearing vulnerable? This self-silencing behavior, while it may feel proactive and somewhat protective, can lead to much deeper issues in a relationship. Men tend to silence themselves in order to appear strong, but it prevents intimacy and a deeper connection and understanding of who you actually are. Whereas women will tend to silence themselves in order to avoid conflict completely. And this can lead to unresolved emotional issues or resentment over time, driving up emotional distress and leading to poor coping mechanisms.
All right, so for that one about keeping your silence, I think every person's gonna. I don't know how many times we're gonna keep saying that, but every individual is gonna be different. Every relationship is gonna be different. Every interaction, right? In my experiences, I feel on both sides I've seen it. On my side, where there were times where I had to walk on eggshells and I had to like bite my tongue and not say certain things, because sometimes we men, we tend to kind of just speak our minds, right? Sometimes we don't always think through what we're going to say. And
Yep.
because we have good intentions, we think that that's going to translate to whatever we're going to say. But sometimes we could come off as like very just brutally honest. And if you're with somebody who's more sensitive or emotional, 'cause especially always think about it, things that you hear are always going to come harsher from people you care about than, some random fucking stranger out on the street. And it might not have nothing to do with the person being sensitive. It's just they're sensitive to you because they care about you and about your opinion. Not mentioning them, trusting you and opening up their hearts to you. So to me, that's one thing that I've seen, where sometimes I've had to walk on eggshells and bite my tongue because of that. Or sometimes just I need to process things before speaking things. And I've learned, getting into different relationships, communicate that, right? Because instead of like just being stoic and them thinking like, oh, see, he doesn't care, he doesn't want to say anything, and it's like, no, it's because I care about you and I don't want to hurt your feelings with something that it's not a well thought out, statement that I have in my mind. I want to make sure that I have, you know, everything put together so that when I do tell you and I do communicate what I feel, it's you know, it's a little bit more thought through and way more organized, and there is no you know, misunderstandings or anything like that. um I've seen it with a specific partner where she's not the most confrontational person. She'll speak her mind if she has to, but she'll always try to find a way where it's not, you know, becoming an argument, or she, you know, not hurting, you know, my feelings or whatever. And a lot of the time she has to bite her tongue, similar to what I just said, because she wants to think things through. And we've had to work on it because, you know, it's like, I can't read your motherfucking mind, and I'm not a mind reader, woman. You know, so we've had to work on that. So I've seen it on both sides, and I do think that it's on both sides. So anything you guys want to add up before we wrap up?
Nah, you summarized it perfectly.
Take us home.
So with that being said, guys, again, we only reacted to a couple of points. Check out the full video on the original channel. That's Kate and Michelle. And the video of men and women are different, LOL. This is me, Richie, Jesus, Ian. We love you, Kika, wherever you at. She's on assignment. She'll be with us next month. But hopefully that you guys enjoy this. If you guys agree, disagree, have anything to add, please add it respectfully in the comment section. Tune in to the next time. And like Ian said earlier, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Support us as we continue to hit that milestone to try to get to 1,000 subscribers. We are almost to at 100, 1/10 away. So please help us, guys. We really appreciate that. Hit that like, share, download, report, deport, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys next time. See it through my eyes, baby. Take care.
Where's the 10 coming from?
Bye.
What are you talking about? What are you talking